The Lakers have wanted Gary Trent Jr. for years. Masai Ujiri has left him without a contract extension this season, meaning he's going to be available in free agency this summer, which has led to some Lakers reporters coming out and discussing a potential sign and trade with the Toronto Raptors because LA is a cap-stricken roster and they don't really have a chance to bring in Gary Trent Jr. at the expected contract he's going to get in the offseason. So they're pitching different sort of deals to land the Toronto Raptors star boy Gary Trent Jr. and bring him in as a shooter to play alongside LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the group of guys that they have going on down there in LA. So we're going to break down what these Lakers reporters are proposing with the Toronto Raptors, whether or not it makes sense for this Raptors team, and how Gary Trent Jr.'s future is really going to be projected with the Toronto Raptors now at this point, because again, Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster have let him get to free agency, and whether it's the LA Lakers who have been trying to pluck away Gary Trent Jr. from Toronto for years, there's question marks about whether or not the Raptors should bring him back, should try to sign and trade, or, should let him walk in free agency and play around with their cap space, keeping their flex ability open instead of giving it to Gary Trent Jr. So, lots of stuff to discuss in this video, folks. If you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet and you want to stay up to date with everything regarding the Toronto Raptors, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button because we're delivering daily Toronto Raptors coverage. But let's dive into sort of what's been going on, what's been discussed amongst the Lakers supporters that obviously think they can get anyone in the league. And Maxwell Godin has come out and said that when a team is limited in its resources, one of the most essential aspects of a general manager's job is the ability to think outside the box. For the LA Lakers front office leader Rob Pelinka, that would mean finding players that could be better in purple and gold than they were at their previous stops. One of these players Pelinka should be evaluating in that respect is Toronto Raptors swingman, pending unrestricted free agent Gary Trent Jr. Now, I want to start by saying, Max, this isn't thinking outside the box. The amount of LA Lakers fans, the amount of LA Lakers reporters, beat bloggers, whoever the heck they are, that have proposed that a Lakers trade is incoming over the past 2 years, it's a lot. There's a lot of people. This is inside the box thinking for LA Lakers fans. They have wanted Gary Trent Jr. for a long time. Yes, he's regressed, and maybe the value for him, the attractiveness in LA and stuff has died off here now at this point, but this is not an outside-the-box sort of thought for the LA Lakers fans. Wanted to preface that as we dive back into the next sort of discussion in this article. But essentially, as a free agent who's likely to command a salary that sits above the Lakers' price range, the unfortunate reality is that acquiring Trent would be at least somewhat complicated. A sign-and-trade could be an option for the Clutch Sports client. However, Los Angeles has the assets to perhaps a Rui Hachimura if a trade for an all-star falls through to at least get Toronto on the phone. Pelinka looks to the open market to try and make the Lakers contenders again. Trent, a starting caliber sharpshooter who has improved on defense, should be firmly on Los Angeles's radar. Now, that's a lot of interesting points that were brought up regarding Gary Trent Jr., particularly the side that, again, there's a lot of teams that are going to be interested in Gary Trent Jr., but given how he regressed last season for the Toronto Raptors, and his stats weren't horrible. I don't want to come out here and bash on Gary Trent Jr. 14 points per game was a step down from his 17-18 he was getting seasons prior. Still hasn't improved on the rebounding much. The assists, steals per game is at 1.1. He was higher than that, season prior. Still doesn't get many blocks, but moves his feet and on any given night can look like an elite defender for the Raptors. But the unfortunate things on any given night could look like a guy that's asleep on that end of the floor. Shot 39% from behind the three-point line. For this Raptors team, there was a point in this season, like a month, he was shooting 50%, one of the league's best three-point shooters. Not anything remarkable in terms of overall field goal percentage. And the interesting part about Gary Trent Jr. as well is, despite the fact he's a great overall three-point shooter, hitting above the breaks and all those types of things, he only makes about 38% of his corner threes, which is a little bit strange for a sharpshooter. Obviously, the corner three, I know the perspective is weird for some people, but just me as someone hoops too, and just the stats sort of show it. Given the fact it's shorter, the corner three-point line is something that, most three-point shooters shoot it at an extremely high level. I mean, Gradey Dick was one of the most elite corner three shooters in the NBA last season. Gary Trent Jr. hasn't sort of thrived in that area. You can look at stats there. I'll bring it back up at the bottom right. But, 38% from corner threes, which is below his actual overall three-point shooting average. So he's taking a lot more, above the break, around those spots where LeBron James usually tosses them to, Anthony Davis, those types of guys. but most of his threes are assisted, so it's not like they're being created a ton, and shoots over 50% of his shots from behind the 3-point line. So that's an increase from what we saw last season for Gary Trent Jr. and stuff. So that's a guy that, again, makes sense as a solid 3-point shooter, has shown potential in the defensive end, and as the Lakers fans are reporting, maybe they'll be able to buy high, do some types of things on Gary, or buy low and then turn him into a major asset when he's playing around stars like LeBron and Anthony Davis and these types of players. So I get where the Lakers are coming from, but does this make sense for the Toronto Raptors? Now, Rui Hachimura is a guy that I have been very intrigued about since he was with Washington and put up really solid stats last season for LA as well. 14 points per game, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and you look at the percentages from him, especially on this team. Also has some size, plays defense and stuff. 42% behind the 3-point line and 53% from the field. 6'8", 26 years old, similar age, shooting 44% on corner threes. You can see the bottom left, and more of his threes are assisted upon. 99% of his threes, are getting those kickouts from the LeBrons of the world and those types of guys. And the less of his overall attempts are from the 3-point line. Shoots a lot more middies and things like that, but is a more efficient 3-point shooter, no doubt about it, according to the numbers, than a Gary Trent Jr. So you might look at that and be like, Ben, this is a steal if we get Rui Hachimura in one of these packages. He's a level up in terms of Gary, and he plays a different position from what Gary Trent Jr. is providing, because right now we have RJ Barrett, we have Gradey Dick that are already sort of solidified, going to be getting minutes at that 2-guard position for the Toronto Raptors. So why would we even hesitate? Why are the Lakers even offering this if this is potentially on the table? Well, there's a couple things. And the first one is basically Rui Hachimura's contract. So he's under contract for the next couple seasons at $17 and $18 million. And, maybe they don't look at him as a fit. And you look at the regular season stats and you say, hey, why isn't that a fit? Well, last season, he didn't regress in the regular season by any means. I mean, it's tough to see here with the smaller sort of text, but actually improved from what he was putting up for the LA Lakers the season prior. But where he really regressed was in the playoffs. And this is where people were kind of hoping, given his strong performance the previous year, he'd be able to level up. So the stats in the first row are kind of his last series against the Denver Nuggets, where, it's tough to see the points per game. Averaged 15.3 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 0.8 assists, and was pretty efficient, doing his thing out there, 53% from the field, 33% behind the 3-point line. That's against the Denver Nuggets in this series, the Western Conference Finals last year. What did he do? And he put up some even better series in, earlier rounds in the playoffs last season. This year, 7.8 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 0.8 assists, similar numbers and stuff like that. Less minutes at that point, but really the percentages fell off, and Lakers fans were just absolutely just not happy with what Rui Hachimura was doing in the postseason, doing in the playoffs. So they're kind of like, hey, let's just bring in some new blood. Let's bring in a different type of player, maybe more of a, natural 3-point shooter. Because Rui, again, takes some middies, does those types of things. And the Lakers just always want constant movement. LeBron James always trying to shake up the roster, bring in players that make sense. And on paper, Gary Trent Jr. seems like a guy that could potentially make sense, even though we dive into the advanced stats a bunch. I think Rui's the smarter sort of piece. But, if the Lakers were to offer up Rui Hachimura in a potential sign-and trade with the Toronto Raptors, honestly, just off the premise of not letting the asset walk for nothing, I don't think that would be a horrible move for the Toronto Raptors. Again, the flexibility is what people have been raving about, calling for the past, since the trade deadline, we got rid of Pascal, got rid of OG. But Hachimura is a player, I don't think it's a major hit if we take a risk on bringing him in, seeing if he's able to turn things around. Because again, looking at the contract, he is a dude that I don't think that contract is horrific. 17 points, 17 million and 18 million at that point. And Hachimura kind of fit what this roster needs. A bit more of a longer, bigger forward than Gary Trent Jr. is more of a 2. Even if their heights aren't different, they play different sort of styles. But let me know what you guys think about all this Toronto Raptors news in the comment section down below. You guys have a best second star. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Signing out. Cheers.